Big 12 today, it is our Modelo Spring Road Trip touring Big 12 country, launching our series today with Texas Tech, previewing the upcoming season. And this spring, the Red Raiders get started about a week from today. With Ari Timken, I'm James Westling, and we welcome in Joey McGuire, the head coach at Texas Tech. And, Coach, first of all, during the offseason, you're handing out Big 12 championship rings. You're also out here handing out marriage licenses. What does this say just about the culture? And, man, you're a man of many talents.
Yeah, that was my godson asked me to do his wedding, so they got married at the Flamingo in Vegas. So that was a fun wedding. We had a good time.
That sounds like an amazing wedding. You better be quiet about being ordained to marry people, because you're gonna have a lot of requests from Texas Tech fans.
I've had a few. I actually, for the Big 12 championship, one of my strength coaches got married, and I did the wedding the next weekend. So
that's amazing.
Just trying to, help the people out, man. Just a man of the people.
Oh, dude, that's so awesome.
About it.
All right, so in terms of, this spring, Brendan Sorsby comes in. He's got the resume. But, Baron Morton was the guy that kind of built this program's championship culture, just a great kid. So how do you pass that torch to Sorsby, and what do you need from him in terms of leadership and play on the field?
Yeah, we're right in the middle of that. We have football school today. We've got our Culture Wednesday tomorrow. That's the thing that with talking to the coaches. I mean, we've got to get better at some things, but we also can't assume that this team is going to be like last year's team just because this is what we do. Meaning, man, we have such a strong culture, and Baron Morton was a part of that culture, and he had played a lot of games for us. And so now it's Sorsby's turn, and he's got to do the same. He's got to bring this team together. He's got to cross over from offense to defense, and not just, be close to the offensive guys, but really when he walks in the room and he uses his voice, he's got to understand that it's his responsibility to make sure everybody's listening whenever he talks. And the great thing about him, he's a vet. He understands what I'm asking him to do, and he's really been all in January, February, and going into March and trying to bring this team together.
I'm really excited to see what this offense looks like with Mac and Brendan Sorsby. I'm just curious about the approach in terms of trying to generate an offense. It feels in the modern world like you kind of design offenses and change things throughout the offseason, but is it different with a quarterback that has a different skill set than what you had last year?
Man, it's a little bit different, but one thing we talked to him about was we want him to come and thrive in our offense. And we felt like he matched the stuff that we wanted to do. And when I say that, meaning he could go to other places, and because he can run, then they would incorporate that. We'll incorporate it, but that's not what we're gonna major in. And that was one of the selling points. There's some people that are just gonna bring him in and they're gonna run him no matter what, and not really concerned about developing him. And that was not our case. We love that he can run, that he's mobile. I told him, I said, one of my favorite things about him is how he can extend plays, and he's probably the best whenever he's scrambling and, pulling the ball down to run. But that's something that just naturally happens versus coming out and having a bunch of run game in the game plan for our quarterback. That's not what we want to do. We want to keep, building this offense. And we put some good pieces around him, and then he's got some great pieces coming back, that he's really fired up about.
Well, yeah, those pieces around him, my goodness, the running back room's just absolutely loaded. And then at receiver, you've got two receivers that just tested really well at the NFL Combine. But then you bring in guys like Malcolm Simmons. You bring in a vertical threat from Liberty, Dante Lee Jr., who is a 20 yards per catch guy. And you've added several other pieces. The kid from Pitt we're excited about. You've got Terrence Carter coming back. You look loaded there, too. What excites you about that group?
Yeah, the depth in that room, because, we bring Coy Aiken back, who's been a 3-year starter for us, or going on a 3-year starter, and you bring TC back, which is huge. But then you add, like you said, you add Kenny Johnson from Pitt, you add those guys. And then our young guys, I mean, we felt really, really good about our freshmen that we brought in the year before, and Leighton Stone and Michael Deaver and Bryson Jones is going to be a dude. Tristan Gentry, all those guys got to play some last year, and then we added a couple more freshmen. Chase Campbell, who's a local kid who's just dynamic, 4-star, could have gone anywhere in the country and chose to stay at home. Those guys are looking really good. They're all mid-years, and so they're looking really good. So that I think the biggest thing, like when I talk about receiver, you're losing 2 guys that are going to play on Sundays. We added guys that are going to play on Sundays, but the depth, I think we're deeper than what we were last year in that room. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm curious. Obviously, what a recruiting class you had. We've talked so much about your ability to recruit in the transfer portal, but how about the incoming freshmen, including Felix Ojo, 6'6", 275 pounds, number 1 offensive lineman in the state of Texas. How many, I think I read something about you have 17 early enrollees. So how many freshmen do you expect to be there at spring? And is Felix a guy that can compete to start right away?
Well, we have, both our tackles are back, so we're fortunate that we will be able to grow him. But we 18 of the 21 that we signed in December are on campus right now, and we're, the one thing that I would say, you never want to say, hey, guy's going to be as good as this guy, or compare anybody to like a David Bailey. But the one thing we did bring in between the transfers and in that freshman class are some really big, large humans. So I do think whenever you see us right now, we're even a bigger team than what we were last year. And, that's exciting. But, Felix is doing a great job. We brought in a kid out of Tennessee, Jacob Crow. He's 6'8", 315. He just turned 17 last month. And Bryce Gilmore, J.J. Mays. We brought in some really, really good offensive linemen. They're all here and going through spring. Felix looks great, is moving well, has a really good base foundation of strength, and so excited about those guys. Spring football is going to be a lot of fun because there's a lot of competition going on in different spots.
Just to follow up on that, we saw a combine where we had multiple players just shatter combine records. And, you've been around this sport a long time and you've coached every level. Like, these kids are athletically at a different level. You just mentioned a 17-year-old that's 6'7", 315 pounds. Like, what is it? Is it nutrition? Is it human beings evolving? Because we just have we're just developing freaks in football right now.
Yeah, it's a mixture of everything. I think one of the biggest things I've always thought, when you get an argument of who's better, like Michael Jordan or LeBron, you get in those arguments. The biggest thing is the development of nutrition, the importance of nutrition in the weight room. I mean, you see old videos of guys that, they didn't lift, and football is a little bit different, but those guys didn't lift at the level. You're also getting these guys year-round for us, and in the state of Texas, it's year-round pretty much when you're talking about high school football, and so it's just the emphasis of I think the development, the nutrition, the weight room, and you are getting some really large human beings that can do some special things. Because you saw that, I was fired up, man, about at the combine. I mean, our guys did really well, but I thought the guys overall in the Big 12 had really good combines. You see what Utah's offensive tackle did, running a 4.91 at that size. It was impressive with the combine that he had.
Texas Tech coach Joey McGuire is with us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Coach, I want to circle back to what you said about continuing to have an all-bus team, being bigger and stronger and faster than you were last year. Does that apply to the defensive line where you bring in a bunch of dudes that'll all compete up front when you lose so many of those guys you're talking about that are going to be playing in the NFL on Sundays? But, I mean, it looks like you guys have loaded up once again.
Yeah, that's been the biggest probably the last 2 years whenever we're looking going into the portal and looking and identifying. It's almost like, and I've said this, James Blanchard, whenever we got David Bailey, and he was talking about David Bailey, and he said, what would the Philadelphia Eagles do? They would just draft another defensive lineman if there's ever a question. And so, we lose David Bailey, Romello Heights, to replace him with Adam Trick and Trey White, both guys that were really productive in the schools that they're coming from, and really like them. We're going to play Adam to the field. He'll be the field in, and Trey will be the dog, which is, a lot of times into the boundary. It's tough. Like, David Bailey's going to go probably in the top 5. So you're saying you can't say that you're replacing him, but you can replace his production. And then in the D line, we lose a guy like Lee Hunter, but you have AJ Holmes coming back, who was second team All-American. And then you add like that room, where that room is deeper. I think somebody can step up and really try to replace Lee. That's going to be tough to do, but what we are going to be able to do is we're going to be deeper. I mean, we're going to go really 6 deep that have played college football, our defensive tackle and shade or our nose. We really are. We're going to be able to go 6 deep. You added like young man out of Washington that played at a really high level, Bryce Butler. You added JoJo's coming out of Oregon State. I'm really excited about my team. He's coming from Wake Forest. And then, like I said, you got AJ Holmes coming back that's going to be able to anchor that defensive line. We feel like we're going to be good up front, and really good up front whenever it comes to the defensive line.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting because it feels like it's going to be impossible to be as good defensively as you are. I mean, you guys were historically great defensively last year, right? Like there's a reason, So it's like, do you look at that kind of stuff and say like, well, we're going to be better on offense, maybe not as good as defense. You're still going to be good on defense. You just may not be historically great on defense.
Well, it's going to be interesting because our bodies, we're a thicker defense, especially up front. So. I mean, we led the country in rushing yards allowed, and we may be better at stopping the run than what we were last year. So we always talk about, just because the bodies, the thickness, and the size of these guys, the thing that we always talk about is you stop the run to earn the right to rush the quarterback, and that was such a big part of last year. And so, we've got to do that. We're losing Jacob Rodriguez, who had a phenomenal combine.
Yep.
But we added a guy that a lot of people know in the Big 12, and Austin Romaine. So he'll go where Jacob is. We got Ben Roberts coming back, who was the Big 12 MVP in the Big 12 championship, and then John Curry. So our front seven has a lot of experience playing football. The guy that's going to be hard to replace, we're counting on some young guys, is Cole Wisniewski. And, I was disappointed that the NFL chose not to invite him to the combine. I think he should have got invited because he's going to dominate our pro day. Our pro day is March 26th, and he's going to run really, really well.
Joey, this kind of like culture class work that you guys are doing these couple of days, any talk about, we saw the potential for Texas Tech going into last season, but you guys were outside of the top 25 in some polls, and you were kind of the hunter. Now you're the hunted. Like, everybody's gunning for you guys. So how do you get your team ready for that?
Well, we'll ship that in June. Right now, like if you go, we have the countdown clock like a lot of people do, and we got a big, walking into the locker room, a big countdown video board. And right now all it says is me versus me. Like, we're just trying to become the best versions of ourselves. That's the concentration of everything that we're doing right now, is me versus me, focus on that. And then in June, we'll start shifting to our goals for the season of, defending the Big 12 championship. It hadn't been done since OU in 2019, 2020. And so we'll start talking about that. We'll start talking about, us getting better in the playoffs. But, right now it's really focusing on us and how we become, the team that we're trying to become and the people that we're trying to become, in this building. So we're really focused on that. And that's what spring football is anyway, man. It's the purest form of football. Like, we don't have to get ready for anybody. There's no pressure of game day coming or winning a Saturday, afternoon game. It's all about fundamentals and getting better at Texas Tech football, not really, who we're playing. And so that's what's fun about spring football.
Yeah, we love it. All right, man, as we wrap here, I know you're close with Grant, Coach McCaslin. They just beat Iowa State on the road without Toppin, their best player. Like, the dominance between your two programs, at what point does Lubbock just apply to be its own state? It's insane.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we recruit West Texas like it's its own state. We all have an area of West Texas, so that's one thing. But I'm so fired up for Grant. I really hurt for him. Anytime you lose a kid, anybody does. I sit here and watch guys around the country get hurt, and I just hate it for the teams because there's so much work that goes into what we're doing.
Yeah.
And JT is such a great person, man. He's just such a great person and so engaging. And whenever he got hurt, I hated it for him. But if there's anybody that could reel off some really good wins, that's what Grant does, man. I told Kirby whenever we found out about it, Kirby, our AD, our athletic director, I said, well, man, there's no basketball coach I'd want more than leading our team than Grant McCaslin, because he finds so many different ways to win, and he's had to do it at every level. And we had enough games, before the March Madness starts to where we could figure out what kind of team we are. And he's figured out he's a really good team. You hate losing Toppin, but, man, they're shooting the lights out of the ball, and Atwell stepped up, and, Christian's a stud. I mean, that guy's just he's such a stud. And so they're finding ways to win, and man, I wouldn't want to play them. It's going to be a great game tonight here at TCU because, TCU, they really need the win. They have a quality win on their resume, but I imagine Grant's going to have the guys ready to go.
Yep, well said. Awesome stuff. Man, we love talking to you guys. Joey McGuire, the head football coach at Texas Tech. Joey, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, man. Thank y'all.
Welcome.
Thank you, Coach.
See ya. Joey McGuire, the head football coach of Texas Tech, as we launch our Big 12 Modelo Spring Road Trip, touring Big 12 country. We kick it off with the Red Raiders. We'll react to some of Joey McGuire's comments coming up next. He's Ari. I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
Short field.